Kari Lake lost again in court. We talked about her star witness explaining how all the accusations from Kari Lake were just not accurate, not saying that explicitly, but walking through, yeah, we actually verify signatures, and we have an extensive process, and it was Kari Lake's witness, even though she's trying to make the opposite case. Very strange. Well, now we have the result of that trial that we covered a story from, and it is that Kari Lake has lost once again, obviously, because no, she's not the rightful governor. No, she didn't actually win, obviously. But I want to get to, we'll read just a little bit on that, and then get to an event she held after losing this trial, losing it in court once again. That is one of the most bizarre events, bizarre moments in the history of the world. No, I don't know. Very bizarre, and we'll get into it in just a little bit. But first, here's this from CNN. An Arizona judge rejected the final lawsuit brought by Republican Kari Lake, affirming Democrat Katie Hobbs won the 2022 election for governor. Can you imagine? Shocking. In a ruling Monday evening after a 3-day trial last week, Maricopa County Superior Court Judge Peter Thompson found Lake's team did not present clear and convincing evidence or a preponderance of evidence that misconduct was committed in the 2022 Arizona election. So nothing surprising there, but always good to see an election denier once again publicly lose, and lose through our legal process as well. Well, Kari Lake, shortly after this news, posted on or tweeted, "Our movement is massive, but it's about to get even bigger. Huge announcement incoming. Watch here." And so then when you clicked on that link, one of the things you saw was this. And this is a compilation of a few moments from this press conference that she held.
Just ruled that our elections can run lawlessly. The courts have ruled that anything goes. Well, we can play by those same rules, okay? If anything goes, then anything goes. And we are going to start chasing ballots like you've never seen. And I've got an army of moms and dads and citizens behind me who are ready to chase ballots. Because if it's just a ballot that matters, then we can chase ballots too. Hey, if the left plays that way, maybe we should start playing that way.
Yes.
And you know what?
I love that when one person goes, yes.
We're going to inundate them with so many mail-in ballots, their heads are going to spin. To continue pushing our case to the United States Supreme Court.
So brave.
Because we've got to fight this.
Pumped crowd, guys. So if you missed it, her response to losing in court is to say, okay, and by the way, we have much more to look at just to discuss kind of the predicament now the GOP is in because of people like Kari Lake. But before we get to that, she's now saying they just are okay with anything happening, which is not true. They're okay with legal things happening, and only legal things were happening. You couldn't prove otherwise. Okay. But she is saying the courts have just ruled that anything goes. We can play those same by those same rules. If anything goes, then anything goes. If the left plays that way, maybe we should start playing that way. Gosh, she's saying so many statements that are just repetitive. If anything goes, anything goes. If the left plays that way, maybe we should start playing that way. Do it. We're going to inundate them with so many mail-in ballots. Their heads are going to spin. So what she's saying is if the courts are good with lawlessness, we can do lawlessness. But she's citing something that wouldn't be lawlessness. And we've talked about this with Trump before. And what's so strange about this is just close your eyes and imagine being a Kari Lake supporter, okay? I've never closed my eyes this long on the show. This is weird. And I can't do it. That feels weird. And you believe that the things Kari Lake is listing, chasing ballots, we're going to flood the zone with mail-in ballots, all of that, is fraud. That's the source of fraud, okay? Then what you're watching Kari Lake say is we're going to be fraudulent. Now, it's clear to specify she's citing things that aren't fraudulent because she's making up that they're fraudulent. But she's saying, do you get what I'm saying? They think it's cheating and they're okay with now Kari Lake, I guess, doing it even though it's not actually cheating. So I'm fine with them chasing ballots if they're all legal ballots. But they think inherently that process of they'll call what is referred to as ballot harvesting, to them that means something fraudulent, even though it's just a third third party, not political party, but a third party person, so a family member, for example, taking the ballot of someone and delivering it for them. If you're elderly and it's hard to get to the polling place, that's a way for it to be easier for you. So ballot harvesting is an example of something that some on the right are now saying we should do that. But y'all thought it was cheating, and now you're saying you're going to do it because the left does it. So then you're openly calling for cheating. It's so strange. You're not, but you think that you are. And that's what that was. Very, very bizarre. As I was saying, though, Kari Lake is putting, and Trump and MAGA and all that, they're putting the GOP in a brutal situation. And I've said it before, but this is the monster you created, Republicans. And don't come to us who have been calling out this dangerous part of your party for so long and ask for help whenever you just keep losing because of individuals like Kari Lake. Should have called her out in the first place. You should have called out Trump's election lies. And now you're in quite the predicament because she is alienating so many moderate Republicans or independents. That's why she lost. If she hadn't alienated those voters, she could have won that race. And now she's leaning into the very thing that alienated the people that caused her to lose the election that now she's lying about. And she got confronted by this fact by Tim Miller. I think this was at CPAC. And I want to remind you of this, and then we'll look at one other moment.
Pompeo in there saying that we've lost 3 straight elections, that it's time to change the strategy, maybe appeal out to more moderate voters. You just lost an election. What say you to that?
Well, they like to say we lost elections. We're having corrupt, stolen elections, okay? We're having corrupt, stolen elections. President Trump won that election in 2020. He did. There was corruption. I know you don't believe it and you don't want to look at it. And they stole the election from me, and you guys have
But don't you think you really lost the election because you didn't reach out to the McCain voters, the Blake voters? You told the McCain voters to get out of the room.
No, I didn't.
And you campaigned hard MAGA.
That's fake news.
I went to your last event. It was.
Did you hear that? He makes the point that you're alienating McCain voters, McCain Republicans, McCain being someone who's a prominent figure, moderate Republican in Arizona. And she openly was hostile toward those Republicans. So then you wonder why you weren't able to get enough votes, even just from within your own party, to win against Katie Hobbs. And this is something we saw in the midterms, before I get to a fact check on her saying that's fake news, to what Tim Miller said. But that's a phenomenon we observed in the midterms across multiple elections. When you would compare certain on the ballot election, certain races where more moderate Republicans were running, and compared that to the vote totals in the races with more radical candidates running, same voters going in, but a lot of them were voting for the more moderate Republican and then deciding not to vote for the more radical one on that same ballot. And that's the reason a lot of these GOP candidates lost. An example of this is Herschel Walker. Kari Lake doesn't want to learn that lesson. And so instead she's leaning into the very radical, extreme, detached from reality identity that caused her to lose in the first place. Is pretty wild. But her saying that Tim Miller pointing out that she said McCain voters should get out of the room at one of her events, and she said that's fake news. It's very much not. This was from her 2022 gubernatorial campaign.
We don't have any McCain Republicans in here, do we? All right, if you get the hell out. It was the party of McCain. And it was I know.
So I don't think it's a good strategy in a purple state to alienate and demonize a part of your own party, McCain Republicans. You have to make a movement. You have to create a movement to win those types of elections that are going to be close. And that's not the way to do it. And so now we have a world where GOP candidates will be too extreme for even some moderate Republicans and definitely independents, obviously Democrats, and thus they'll lose. They'll turn around like Kari Lake, lie about the election, and she's going to run likely for Senate, do the same thing, hopefully lose, and the cycle will continue. The reason that they're losing is what they're leaning into. The extreme part, it's who they are now, these election deniers. People don't like the election denying. They're rejecting it. And the rejection is a basis for more conspiracy theories about the election denying, or about the elections being stolen. It's really wild. And that's what the GOP is going to have to contend with. And that's the bed they made.